and welcome to Positivity Show. I'm Tanya Lacy, and I'm very, very excited to be having this conversation today with someone who's talking to me from Thailand. I met this amazing woman who's so inspiring. She's an entrepreneur, she's an author, and she has several businesses. I'd like to welcome to my community the one and only Teagan Marshall. Hello, Tegan from Thailand.
Hi, Tanya. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I love your show.
Great. You're more than welcome. I felt that when we met, and guys, we actually met at a networking function. Tegan, you want to share your experience of where we were on International Women's Day and how we met?
Yeah. We were in this amazing group of women that are doing so many incredible things and helping so many people in different parts of the world. And I had the opportunity to hear you speak, which was wonderful, but just more so to connect with you both before and after the workshop. And I just thought, wow, who is this wonderful, amazing woman? I have to get to know her.
We were both like that. And there was this great opportunity where we all got to speak at the end, and then you stood up, and then I got to discover that you are an author. So there's many things that you do, Tegan, and the context here is positivity. The things I'd like to talk about today are about your entrepreneurship, about the things that you've been through and the way you've set up your lifestyle now, which is amazingly inspiring. But if we could start with the book, and are you comfortable to jump in there with the book? Okay,
absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so that really caught my attention, and so hold it up and tell us the story. So is it called Facing Fears? Yes?
Called Facing Fears, and the cover in this book is actually done by an artist. This is not two photographs, it's actually one photo of me, and I had my face done like with this mask. And it's all about just having the courage to reveal the real you. And it's, removing that mask and having the courage to, be yourself. Yeah.
Okay. So I think the origins of the story, we might get into that a bit later. So in your journey, what have you found stops people and holds people back, particularly in business? I mean, you want to start there and talk about the link between fear and being successful in business, and what you're up to in your own, business journey?
Absolutely. So if you ever want to experience fear, start a business. That's my thing. Because it really does. It shows all your vulnerabilities. It exposes all those vulnerabilities. You have to have so much courage to even take that first step. And I started my first business at 14, which was more out of necessity because of my childhood and upbringing, which we'll touch on a bit later. And so I started my first business at 14, my second at 17, and so on since then. And even though I would say I've got a lot of experience in various different industries, in different businesses, and had several successful ones and some not so successful as well, the fears that show up are about, revealing yourself, showing yourself, standing tall and, letting the light shine on you, promoting your business, selling in your business. There's so many fears associated. So I love working with people, and I have, I do work one-on-one and in groups as a business coach and consultant, just helping people to overcome those fears and, first of all, to recognize them as well. I had a client recently who was, wanted to launch a new product, and she didn't realize that what was holding her back, she had this kind of glass ceiling, was fear. And so when we worked through it, she was like, oh, wow, now I get it. And so now she's gone on and smashed through that glass ceiling and is making more than she's ever made before. So I love that. I love it.
Yeah, well done. That's amazing. It's that self-awareness and also support. We were talking about this earlier, where, sometimes we ourselves are not, when you're in it yourself, you can't help yourself. You actually need someone else to walk with you, to show you and to see you. And and I really get with you that's a big part of who you are and what you do and how you show up. And you've got very grounded energy. While you've got lots of energy, your energy is actually really grounded and very real. And I think that was part of, how we got connected. You know, that there's a lot of pizzazz in business that if you scratch the surface, it's not necessarily supported. And, you know, I think you get to spot it.
Thank you so much. And I have, I don't know, over the years, I've developed like various tools that actually help me. And those are the ones that do keep me grounded, you know, really. It's not good to look back unless you're actually doing something positive with it. So, you know, one of the things I look at is, well, you can look back to where you come from. And I do that twice a year. I do it on my birthday in July, and I do it at Christmas time as well. And I just look at where I've come from and how far I've come. And that's really good, you know, tool to just be humble and keep grounded, but also to boost your confidence as well. With that, you know, positivity, you know, you can't be positive without confidence, and confidence is boosted by just, you know, remembering how far you have come, and along with, you know, a few other things as well, what steps as well.
So I'd love to share a little bit about your lifestyle, because that fascinated me. Now, I've just got back from traveling myself and putting a few things in place to be spending more time on the move. However, you're doing it, right? I'm still doing bits of it and talking about it. You're actually doing it. So how about you share where you are and how you set yourself up? You and your husband have got this amazing setup, which is very non-conventional, and I'd really love you to share it with the community, because I think it's very inspiring.
Thank you. I love my life, and I used to see people that would say that, and I'm like, oh, you know, I love my life, and that's great, but you know, it's kind of, I really do. I really do. And you know, many years ago, it was just a dream, and ironically, I hadn't actually shared that dream with my husband. And so I remember sitting in Italy in this tiny little cafe, and just sitting there, and I'd read the 4-Hour Work Week, which we're all probably familiar with, by Tim Ferriss, and I was like, how can I make this happen? At that point, I had, you know, business and all this sort of stuff. And actually, I was going through an experience where, a business that I'd created, I'd chosen the wrong business partner, put it that way. So it was, you know, a lot of
very
legal
diplomatic
stuff and all that. Yeah, exactly. Got to take responsibility for it. You know,
totally.
And so, you know, I was like, you know, how can I make this happen? And I couldn't see a way. But I put it out there, and I was like, I really, really want this in every part of my being. Anyway, and then I let it go. Anyway, time moved on. I met my husband. We were dating. We sort of went on a first. He wasn't much of a traveller. Went on our first trip. Went on another trip, and we were on a remote island in Indonesia. And one of his clients, who I'd started working with his business, which is a digital marketing agency, one of his major clients, you know, there was this huge thing that had happened, and and all of a sudden we needed to help them. And we were on this remote island where the power would go out every day, and we'd have to go and help them plug in the modem. So anyway, we would work, and then the power would go out. So then we'd go swimming and snorkeling and having fun, and then the power would come back on. We'd do more work. So by the end of that trip, we were flying home, and he said to me, looked at me, and he said, I reckon we can do this. And I'm like, what? You know? And he said, I reckon we could, you know, like travel and be traveling the whole time. We didn't like going home. That was the worst part of having a holiday. So we were like, let's do this. And because it was his idea, I was like, that's a great idea, honey.
That's awesome.
Thank you, universe.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so we set about, we sold up our properties, we sold up our cars, and we had a few of them, and I had a lot of stuff. I used to have a chain of fitness studios, so I had a lot of sporting equipment and all that sort of thing, a lot of storage units full of stuff and garages, and we just basically over the next couple of years sort of downsized everything and moved our staff to working from home, which they loved, and set up another company because we thought with the digital marketing it would be more difficult. So we set up a DIY website company. And that was great. And so then we actually, the day we left, we hadn't sold our last car. And we arrived at the airport, and we were thinking, what are we going to do? And we teed up someone who was interested in it, and they were going to meet us at the airport. We're like, what's the worst thing that could happen?
That's fine. They're going to take the car.
Anyway, we signed over the car.
Oh, wow.
They showed up. We signed over the car. We gave them the keys. They dropped us off, and you know, and we were like, I hope they don't cancel the payment, you know, or do something like that, because we're out of the country.
Yeah.
But people say to me, how did you do it? And it's like, we made a decision, we made a commitment, and we took a lot of risk.
A lot of action too.
Yeah, but what's the worst
action
thing that could happen is, you know, that, you know, it doesn't work out, so you come back and you buy another house and you just start buy another car and you do all that stuff. So people say, how do you do it? You buy an airplane ticket and you just make it happen. So, I mean, and you stay positive. You know, your show is about positivity. You can either focus on what could go wrong. Now, in my facing fears, you've got to look at the reality of fear and what it's trying to tell you. And so you've got to look at reality. But you choose to focus on the positives, or in the facing fears, on the truth. So, and the reality is, if you've set yourself up so what, you know, the worst thing that could happen isn't terrible, you're not going to die, you know, then everything after that, it's just another experience. So buy the ticket.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, okay, I really love this, and, you know, it's those day-to-day decisions and being very clear on what you're creating and keeping your eye on that horizon, and then, you know, waking up in the morning and choosing that this day is going to be what you want to create. And, you know, I talk about, you know, putting your head on the pillow at night and looking back at the day ahead of time so that you have decided how your day is going to be. So imagining for you saw yourself in all these different countries working with this power that's going off and on, but you still made it happen. What were the countries that you guys saw yourselves in?
Well, we saw ourselves in Southeast Asia, and we both were interested in going to Vietnam and Thailand, and so we've done that. We saw ourselves in Singapore, which was, we've done that too, which I love Singapore. It's just an incredible place. And then we saw ourselves in Hong Kong, where I have a dear friend. We saw ourselves in Europe, absolutely. And so Europe's, you know, so many different countries. We've done quite a few of them now. So we're now a few years down the track and have been traveling permanently for a number of years now. And so now we're kind of at the point of, like, each year we tend to go back to some of our favourite places. So this is our third time in Thailand.
Okay.
But now we're adding, we haven't been to Croatia before, and I've always wanted to go to Greece, so I haven't done that. So those are the new ones we've added this year. So we tend to mix it up with, you know, some that we've been to because we make friends and we've got to go back and see them, and then with new ones as well. So
it's a cycle that you're creating of, you know, I call it connectology. You know, you're connecting with people, they're inviting you back, and then you're having amazing experiences and you're spiraling up together, which is awesome. Awesome. So well done. That's very, very inspiring. And this is a big contrast, obviously, to, you know, your roots and where you came from and what propelled you forward. So would love you to share, because as we discussed before we started the program today, you know, people can see the title of the program's positivity. It's like, well, it's okay for you, Tanya. It's okay for your, you know, your guests. However, what this is really about is resilience, and it's about all the stuff that you have experienced that gets you to the point where you know that you want to be working on your positivity. It's something that you have to work on to get through and to get done what it is that you want to get done. So I really know with your story, massive case in point. So to the extent you're happy to share today, I'd love to expose this truth to the community.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. And I wasn't always open to sharing my story because it was that one that, you know, society and my personal upbringing created a lot of shame and guilt around it. But when I found the courage to publish my book is actually a mixture between my own personal biography in each chapter, as well as lessons that people can apply to their life in facing fears. Okay. So you don't have to read my personal story if it's, you know, a bit too much for you. But, you know, I really wanted people to get out of it that the biggest thing that's made the hugest difference in my life is facing fears. And you talk about positivity, and I love with positivity, because with positivity, like fear, it gains momentum. So as you choose and you start deciding to focus on the positive, it gets easier. And I can tell you, you know, on the other side. Now, not every day is a positive, you know,
day.
Yeah, but it gets easier. And I can tell you, if you're starting down that road where everything just seems insurmountable, just chip away at it. You know, they're saying how to eat an elephant, one little piece at a time. And that's what I did. So to give you a synopsis of my childhood, I was adopted into a family that really shouldn't have had children. They were not the best parents. It was a very abusive environment. So I, for the majority of my childhood, from the age of 5 through till the age of 13, 14, I had to endure all types of abuse. So physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse, all the different realms from both parents. And so it wasn't a great environment, and you wouldn't think that's a very positive environment. I was told that I was the cause of all their problems. I was told that I was never going to be anything. I was going to be a failure at everything. And so, you know, in that environment, I still get goosebumps with that. You know, in that environment, I don't think it ever leaves you. In that environment, it was
what I actually got, Tegan, just if I can, was the actual opposite, that it was like this strength thing, that how ironic that what they told you that you couldn't do, you've actually become the opposite of. You've actually, you ended up transmuting that energy to become, you know, this amazing supportive entrepreneur who's written books and travels the world and has this amazing life. So it's actually everything they said you couldn't do, you've actually done. That's what I got the goosebumps about.
Yes, and that's what I'm getting the goosebumps for, exactly. And when I say it's, you know, always with me, it's what created that. Like I firmly and wholeheartedly believe and am grateful for my childhood, which some people might find that hard to believe. But it created my tenacity. It created my hardworking ethics, my focus, my passions, my journey. And so at the age of sort of 13, 14, around that age, I managed to escape that, and I was put into the foster care system. And that's not a great system, I can tell you. There's a lot of people trying so hard to make it work, but it's overloaded. It's just overloaded. So I was given, my belongings were in a bag, and I was put into a caravan by myself as a child, because they didn't have anywhere for me to go, and I had to work out how to get my food. I was given vouchers and how to find my way to school. So I became very self-supportive and, very I'd work stuff out. And that's a skill that's stuck with me through my whole life. You know, if I'm faced with something, I just try and work it out. I'm very much a problem solver. And so through that, I was put through 3 different families in the foster care system, and then I decided I could do better myself. So I went out and got a job under.
May I just say something?
Yes.
We teach change your environment or change your environment, and you changed your environment.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Your environment, and I've had to do that a few times in my life too, because, you know, when I was in my later teens, I was actually surrounded by, you know, the drug environment and everything like that. And thankfully, which is kind of a double-edged sword, I saw, it's not thankful, it's an awful thing, but it was a good thing for me to see someone pass away from a drug overdose when I was very young. So even though I was surrounded by these drugs and you know, all the bad things, I never touched it, which was a blessing because of fear. So fear can serve you in a positive way. It protected me. So it's not something to be feared. So so I ended up finding my way and navigating my way through life. And I started my first business as a teenager, and my second as a a late teenager, in my 17, and several since then. And I've also had a corporate career as well in marketing, and worked for national companies and so on as well. So I've had an amazing, incredible life. And I guess the hardest part for me, which has just come into something that is just my greatest inspiration for me every day, and what I'm truly grateful for, is family. Because a few years ago, I actually found, because I spent my whole life with no family, I was taken away from that, not so great family, and I was on my own the whole time. No parents, no sisters, no cousins, no nothing. And I navigated through life with that, and there was always a bit of a hope. There was this hope that I would actually have a family one day, and I wasn't blessed with children. I wasn't able to have children. And so then I was like, well, I really wanted to find my natural parents, and I did. And thankfully, I am so grateful, because it doesn't always work out this way. But recently I got married to my lovely husband, and sorry.
Yeah, go there. It's okay.
And my real father walked me down the aisle, and my real mother was there as well.
Oh.
And they have accepted me into their families. I'm now part of a huge family, because I have 8 brothers and sisters, and so and cousins and nieces. I've got nieces and nephews that call me Auntie Tegan, and they were there at my wedding. And so if you told me when I was in my early 20s, when we're all like, oh, I'm going to get married someday, that my family would be at my wedding, I would never have believed you. But I always had hope. And that's one thing I say, is something that ties perfectly with positivity, is that feeling in your depth of your gut, that hope. Don't ever give up on it. Because although you may not be able to see how it's ever going to happen, and seriously, at 21, when I had my 21st birthday, if you told me that I was going to be married and part of these amazing families, I would never have believed how it could happen. So let the universe do its work. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps. And I'm standing before you to tell you that, one step at a time, just be positive. You're not going to have, as you say, an euphoric day every single day.
Yeah.
None of us do.
No.
And anyone that tells you that they do is full of
not right.
BS.
It's true. Yeah.
So it's not true. They're not being real. And it can happen. And that's it. I just want to be an example of what's possible. And so thank you for having me on your show as an example, because if I can help one person that's having a rough time, that's come from a not so great environment, that's just having a bad day, just to believe that something is possible, that it can get better. I'm here before you to say that it can be, and one step at a time. So
amazing. There's a couple of parallels. I'm an adoptive mum there, and I'm thinking, no, I'm not sure if you realise that or not.
I did not realise that.
Yeah. So Adam is now, he'll hate me talking about him. He'll be 16 this year, and he's from Ethiopia. So a big part of my vision for my life was travel, and then through a whole series of circumstances, actually met this couple in South America. My husband and I were travelling to South America in 1999, 2000, and we met this couple, and she was Amazonian Indian and he was an English guy, son of a missionary. And we observed that they had adopted 5 street boys from Sao Paulo, and they're all of, African descent. And we're like, oh, they're so beautiful, their energy's amazing. And we assumed that, we would get back to Australia and we could just adopt. You see the movies and you see the movie stars, they write a check, and it's certainly not like that so 7 years later, 4 years later from the idea, we were able to form our family, and Adam was 2 when he came to us, or we went and collected him. So different circumstances and different setup, but just that little link can, and coupling a family together, and then, you're not sure if you're ever going to find your you know, your birth family. And it's just one of life's mysteries. And in your case, you've had an amazing opportunity where it all, the puzzle pieces came together. You were telling a story before about them being at your wedding now, yes. An interesting testament to your skills. So are they together now, or are they each in their own relationships? So had they been in touch since you'd
never ever?
Oh my goodness me! So you had to facilitate all that. Tell us about that. Tell us about that.
So it was. So if you imagine, and my mother is okay with sharing this. I have checked with that. But if you imagine back in the 70s. If you were a single woman and you fell pregnant, there was not the support that you get today. You know, it wasn't. And my mother had lost her father through a farming accident. And so her mother, my grandmother, my natural grandmother, had brought up her and her brothers, and she had, I want to say 5 or 6 brothers. Pardon me if I've got that wrong. Sorry, Mum. And it's hard to keep track of such a big family now. I'm still getting used to it. And so, you know, she was the only girl. And so she was traveling and she met my father, and they were in a relationship for a year. And she'd gone back home, and he came to visit her for a weekend, and I was conceived. So in the heat of passion, I like to say. And then, of course, you know, she was with her family, and he was in Darwin. And so, you know, and she found out she was pregnant. She was like, okay, this isn't ideal, you know, and so on. It was like, and she was given this, she had to make a decision. And this is something with decisions with everything in life, you know, and you make the decision based on the information that you have at the time, which is why you should never, ever beat yourself up years later if you work out that it wasn't the greatest decision. And it wasn't her fault. Like, I should have been adopted into a beautiful, loving family like yours, you know, where you genuinely, you know, wanted to love and give everything you could to your son. And that's how majority of adoptive cases work. That's how it's supposed to work. But it was not her fault. You know, if anything, it was the government, but that's a whole nother conversation. But it's no one's fault, really. It's just the way, the journey that I was meant to go on. And so, you know, it was very painful. So when you gave a child up for adoption back then, you never even got to hold it. So she actually gave birth to me.
Wow.
And as a woman, I cannot.
Bonding.
Having that taken away from you, just, I cannot imagine it. And she never got to see me. So that's a very, very painful experience. And so as you can imagine, that was not something she never wanted. She kind of shut the door on that.
Of course.
And, you know, her mother didn't even know until 3 weeks before I was born. She hid me in the, you know, the fashion then was all flowing dresses and, you know, big balloon skirts and A-line dresses and stuff. So it was a very, very difficult time for her, and she didn't marry for a long time after that again, and she did have a son, which is wonderful, and so she kind of just shut the door on that. And then so to actually, and at my wedding was the first time that she had faced my father. So kudos to her. Oh my gosh, she was so brave, and she walked into an environment that had all my father's brothers and sisters, you know, my brothers and sisters from my father's side, and she walked in her true essence of her energy. She's such a beautiful energy woman, and that's just she's so grounded, she's so creative, that's where I get that part of me from, and so much about her is in me as well, which I'm so grateful for. And she just walked into that room and she owned it, and they conversed, and it was fine. And Dad was also very conscious of making her feel comfortable, and had gone up to her before I arrived, because of course I wasn't going to be there either. So I had my girlfriends, you know, looking out for her and everything, and there for her, just to, you know, just in case, and a corsage for her, and just to make her feel welcome and comfortable as we possibly could. And and so when I walked in, and so we hadn't been in Australia for a year, and we got married in Queensland, and I hadn't been there. and for a year. And some friends I hadn't seen for a couple of years because we kind of scoot into Australia and we can't get to see everyone. So I've walked into my wedding and it was like, oh my God, hi, oh my gosh, hi. And you can see in the video, I'm like, instead of walking down, you know, just smiling, I'm like, oh, hi, oh my God. And Dad's having to kind of pull me up the aisle, you know. And, you know, and there's my mum, you know, and my brothers and my sister and my niece and nephews, and my little niece was a bridesmaid, and my sister, one of my sisters was a bridesmaid as well. And I mean, who would have guessed, you know? And so it was, I will never, ever, ever, ever forget walking down that aisle. It was just to see them both there.
Yeah, like a real pinnacle moment, because everything came together.
And to marry the man of my dreams, and just, wow. Anything is possible. It was amazing. It's
a beautiful, beautiful story. And, you know, and I know that you share that energy with, you know, with people when you work with them, and, you know, how because you're oozing it, right? You're oozing it, and it's amazing. It really is. So I'd love to talk a little bit about how you do support people in a business setting, and we can just touch on it. And I really feel like we could have another conversation down the track and do this again, and maybe go in a little deeper on the, you know, the digital marketing and the coaching and all the different elements to what you do. But perhaps you could just give an overview of the ways that you're finding people come to you and get supported.
Yeah, thank you. It's you know, it's what makes my heart sing. It really does. I love, I like, you know, the cliche, I get up in the morning and I'm excited about my day. I am. And one of the beautiful things, and I know you experience that as well. You know? And so that's why we connect, and one of many reasons why we connect. And so when I work with clients, what I love is that the experiences that I've had, you know, I bring such a varied amount of experiences. So I've owned everything from a fashion label company to an introduction agency, which is, you know, that was before there was the online dating thing. You know, I used to connect people to get married and, you know, find their true love. I've had a chain of fitness studios. I've had an energy conservation company. I mean, such varied sort of industries. So I bring a lot of different experiences, but the fundamentals of business, and you know this as well, the fundamentals of business are the same. So I have this, I used to have a consultancy business called Getting It Done, with a silent SH, little asterisk, because I'm very much about how can we get this done?
You're an executor. I got that. You execute, speed of execution, money of speed.
Exactly. So one of my companies I turned into a multiple six-figure company within the first 12 months. I franchised it out and so on. And so, and that's what I like to do. I love to build companies, not too quickly for the owner. Like I like to help you.
There's a scale phase. And,
so that you still own it and you don't feel out of control, which is very important.
Especially for control freaks.
Yes. But I really love just helping people to bring their dream into reality and to show them how, because business can be so overwhelming, and especially these days with online, because there's so many different things that you can do. Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? Should I be doing Facebook, LinkedIn? Should I be doing, you know, standing on my head? Should I be whatever, you know, whatever the newest latest thing is? And so I help people to get that clarity, and I help the people to have confidence in what they're doing in their business, and get grounded again, and not in too much of a woo-woo way, just in really owning you and feeling in control of it, and, you know, with it all. So that's what I love to do.
Wow. So what I'm getting now, just listening to you, is that you are very practical and you are bringing all those elements of expertise, and because you are someone who has made their own path, you're helping your clients to find their own path. So the smorgasbord of things that are available in life and business and society and whatever is being offered in digital world or whatever doesn't necessarily mean that it's for you. So I talk about, you know, an opportunity is not an opportunity unless it's an opportunity. And what you're doing is helping people discern, okay, well, with where you're at, that I have knowledge about that. That's actually not applicable right now. What about this? And you're helping them get alignment with expressing who they are, so they can really amplify and scale and achieve their vision, but doing it from their true who they are. That's what I see with you.
Absolutely, yes. And that's exactly what I do. You explained it beautifully. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great. I think that's okay. I think that's your unique, what you really bring, because you've lived it. You know, it's coming from that authentic place. So then you're in the strong position to be really sharing that and bringing that. So you're spotting, you know, their path for them and, you know, walking with them, which is so awesome. So let's maybe agree to talk some more at some other point, because I've got some other things I'd love to discuss with you. Tell me about the workshops. You shared before that you've been doing workshops. Is that something that you're doing now, or are you doing? Yeah, you are. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the sort of, the different things that we do. So one of them is a workshop that helps people to build an incredible website.
Okay.
And feel empowered about it. So that's one workshop that we do. And because everything these days stems from or to your website. So it's really, really important. And my husband has been, building WordPress websites for many, many years. He's been a web designer for over 12 years, so lots of experience. So together, we kind of bring the business and the marketing together with the technical. And to be honest, I'm not the most technical person.
Great.
Technology has always been my challenge.
Great.
And so everything gets tested on me. So if I can understand it, then so can, my clients and everyone else that I want to help. So we do workshops where just finishing off a DIY build your own website course as well. So that course. We also have these ready-made websites that are instant WordPress websites. So you buy it, you get it instantly, you put your words in it and your images, or you can use ours as well, and you've got your website. So people can actually have a beautiful, incredible website within 1 hour.
Wow.
So it's easy. I mean, you get it instantly, but you've got to put your own stuff in.
Yes, got it.
And we also have a club that you can join as well. So with that club, it's called the Blue Dog Club. You can have your own website managed by us, but there's a whole heap of marketing in there, and there's a whole heap of recordings, and we do a coaching call at least once a month, usually twice. And there's all about marketing your business and all the things. And I tie into that mindset as well. So, the facing the fears in business as well. So there's lots of different ways that you can kind of extract what you need from our services, and everything from just wanting to know what to do next yourself, all the way through to building a full customized website and having us coach you through the marketing and ongoing and building relationships. We've got relationships with some of our clients for several years of just helping them to grow their business. So I love that.
Wow, that's so amazing. It's fantastic. Tegan, how can people, I could continue speaking to you, and I know that you had a schedule today and so did I, so we'll leave it here. However, we will continue again and do some more. Is that okay with you?
I would love to.
Yeah,
yes.
That's great. We can, just on digital strategy maybe, and some things that, people transitioning to online or that kind of thing. In the meantime, where can people find you if they'd like to know more and track you down?
You can Google me. So my married name now is Teagan Marshall. But the easiest way is for Facing Fears, you just go to facingfears.com.au. You can find me at bluedogwebsites.com and bluedogdigitalmarketing.com.au.
Beautiful.
I love dogs, so we went with Blue Dog.
That's really cool. So what I'll do is make sure that I've got those links on down below, and then people can click through. They can click through. Tegan, I've really enjoyed this first discussion in the Positivity Show. I want to thank you for your energy and your enthusiasm, and I'm really grateful that we pursued the connection and we've connected, and I know that you bring a lot of joy to a lot of people, personally, and also in the supporting them in their business, because you're a growth girl. So I want to thank you for joining us today on the Positivity Show and being my guest.
Oh, thank you so much, Tanya. It's been wonderful to talk to you again, and I look forward to doing this again sometime.
Yeah,
Great.
we will. Okay, thanks, Tegan. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And to find out more about what Tegan has on offer, I'll make sure that I've got the links down below and you can track her down and see what she's up to and where she is. Thanks for watching Positivity Show. Bye for now.